All right, so panel number one, we're a little bit behind, so let's get through it. The topic is the state of privacy in Web3. Put your hand up, anyone here who is at the moment concerned about privacy in Web3. Put your hand up. All right, anybody not concerned? Everyone feels safe and secure at home, sleeping well at night. Only 2 or 3 people. Okay. So we have here, I'm meant to be Jean, the moderator from CrunchDAO, but I'm not. I'm Dominic, I'm filling in. I'm helping Min Kim in all of her exciting adventures and businesses. I'm based here in Dubai, and I'm also working for Web3 TV. If anybody is familiar with them, we cover a lot of events. We're a media partner. And joining me today on the panel, what I'm going to do is they're going to introduce themselves one by one, since I didn't memorize much. So we'll start with Simba.
Hi everyone, I'm Simba, CMO at QuillAudits, and we are a Web3 security company. We do smart contract audits, threat detection, and on-chain monitoring kind of stuff. The things that keep you secure and let you sleep properly.
Hi everyone, I'm Yannik, CEO and co-founder at Arcium, and with Arcium we are building the encrypted supercomputer in order to allow for any type of on-chain and off-chain computation to be executed in a fully encrypted, privacy-preserving way with zero trust assumptions. And so Arcium itself is a stateless computing network that leverages cryptography to offer these kind of encrypted computations within smart contracts, but also for off-chain usage. So CrunchDAO, who are organizing this event, for example, are utilizing Arcium to train encrypted ML models without having to expose any of the underlying data.
Hi everybody, my name is Boris. I run Smart Transactions, STXN, where I also serve as lawyer. Smart Transactions is a general purpose matching engine. You can think of it as CalSwap for anything and everything, not just matching financial transactions, but also non-financial transactions. Where there is demand, we provide the supply and vice versa. Thank you.
Hey guys, I'm Sofiane. I work with Halborn Security. We're a cybersecurity firm. We offer pen tests, smart contracts, audits, consultancy services to builders in this space, but also institutionals coming into the digital asset space. On a personal level, I was a DeFi builder. Worked also with a layer that had privacy enabled. And recently joined Halborn, and thanks for having me, guys.
That's excellent. So we have a lot of people qualified to speak on today's topic. So we'll start off with the first question, and we'll start right here with Simba. What do most users misunderstand about privacy in crypto today?
I think there are like majorly two kind of myths that I have seen in the market. One is like they think like they confuse the pseudonymity with the anonymity. Basically, all the transactions are permanent. If you go dig deeper into it, so coming from security background, like whenever some hack happens, we dig down into it and we try to figure out, okay, who are the actual hackers and stuff. So it is quite easy to figure out like through social link graphs and through their KYC and IP tracking that you can figure out. So this is something like people confuse that they are anon, but they are pseudonym. One is I would say they think like they, the anonymity is only for doing illegal stuff, which is not really true. There is some sovereign data. For example, you want to donate something and you don't want to disclose about it.
Right.
So these kind of two myths that I've seen like prevailing in the market a lot.
That's a good one. Thank you.
So I think what you just said holds true, so that by default everything on-chain is public, there's no privacy, and it goes beyond that. So privacy itself I would differentiate into two categories. We call that privacy 1.0 and privacy 2.0, where privacy 1.0 is offering a more of a transactional privacy approach, most of the time utilizing so-called zero-knowledge proofs as the cryptographic foundation, which allows you as the user, just like you keeping track of your private key, keeping track of your private information, and then using those cryptographic zero-knowledge proofs to prove something about your private information and being able to privately send funds. But that's a very one-dimensional form of privacy where you're only being able to perform a limited set of operations on top of the blockchain. And that has been one of the big problems why we haven't seen privacy adoption so far in Web3, because the applications and user experience have been incredibly limited with this kind of technological approach. And so what we've been doing is building out Privacy 2.0. And Privacy 2.0 instead allows to operate over so-called encrypted shared state. So every user basically encrypts their information, and then it's possible to run computations over this collective encrypted shared state without anyone seeing any of the underlying information. And what that then enables is encrypted apps on top of the blockchain. So being able to execute full smart contract logic in a fully encrypted way, which then means it's possible to perform things like building dark pools on top of a blockchain, which is highly important because nowadays around 60% of daily US spot volume is happening off exchange within dark pools. And so in order to not just bring privacy to individuals for I guess the reason of improving their rights to freedom and individual autonomy, but also in order to onboard institutionals, we need privacy, and especially we need private trading venues and all of these kinds of applications where businesses can actually bring all of their activity on chain. And so I think that's one of the big breakthroughs that privacy is going through right now, shifting from Privacy 1.0 to Privacy 2.0, where anything can be computed over this sort of encrypted shared state.
So out of 10, how would you rate privacy at the moment?
So right now, the status quo of what's possible on chain, I would rate it at a 1, to be honest, because what you need to look at is what's the kind of privacy that we know in Web 2. And the level of privacy we have in Web 2 basically is a trusted form of privacy where we are trusting some third party to provide privacy both as an individual and business. And we have some bilateral contract with, let's say, Google or PayPal. And so the data sort of is protected. In Web 3, as you correctly pointed out, everything is public by default, right? And so especially if we also look beyond just financial applications and look at, let's say, AI applications where you have some deep-in projects that are tracking your data and you have a lot of data aggregation, there's a high risk associated with that. So the current blockchain infrastructure really is at a level 1 out of 10. And with encrypted computing, Privacy 2.0 will be able to reach the level 10, I think, which will be far superior from what we've seen in Web 2, because the new form of privacy is mathematically secured. So there's no way of undermining that form of privacy.
Yeah, building on that, I would say that the infrastructure, if we were to rate infrastructure, is only ever as good as the users. And so, to your question, I think one of the biggest misconceptions that crypto natives have with respect to privacy in blockchain is a massive amount of self-imposed law FUD. Fear, uncertainty, doubt regarding one's legal rights when you're operating on-chain. And so coming from a legal background, I was a law professor in the US for 12 years before coming to Smart Transactions. This has been something that I've worked really, really hard to reverse, both in terms of education on the programmatic side, as well as in practice. So giving users experiences where they can feel not only like they're doing things that are lawful and good, but feel increasingly empowered legally that what they're doing is unimpeachable. And so I think that's incredibly important to raise the level of legal awareness that everybody has and operate with impunity.
Yeah, adding to what you just said regarding the misconceptions, many end users would say we don't need privacy because we ain't doing anything illegal, forgetting that the privacy, first of all, is a right. So if anyone starts digging into your transaction history, then you can actually know anything financially about yourself. But the second aspect I would say that is the misconception is that privacy is complicated. So very often they just come to the space as an end user, the average end user just want to trade some assets without realizing that his historical... Is it working now? Oh, that's better. Sorry about that. So like I was saying, they don't understand that with that data, you have access to absolutely all the knowledge about himself. So first of all, the misconception that I'm not doing anything illegal, so that's the first mistake. And the second one is that privacy is too complicated. I would say the third one is also a lack of education, because we have different privacy techs. We have ZK, TE, FHE, and each one has a different use case. And I think it comes also on the education side. We're missing on that end. We need to explain to the end users, each tech has its use case, and by providing it to the user, you can, I would say, interact on chain in the most safe way.
All right, thank you. So ZK has been mentioned twice already, so I'm going to fast forward to the question around that, but also around private chains. So how does ZK tech and private chains each fit into the picture? And when it comes to private chains, I would personally like to also ask, are there any implications around the permissionless and permission chains in the private sphere? So ZK and private chains. Let's start with, who wants to start first? Let's go, Mr. Boris. Oh, you can start. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I was talking about the different technologies that are available, right? So we mentioned ZK, and I believe that depending on the use case, we could provide to the end user that technology. I come from I used to work with a chain that used trusted environment encryption to actually process parts and bits of the smart contract in a private way. Let's imagine that we're in DeFi. One of the most useful use case that we should be looking for with private chains is liquidation prices. No one wants their liquidation prices when you're active on chain to be public, but yet everyone is on Aave, everyone is on Compound, and their liquidations are available. Well, thanks to TEE, for example, you can actually make private only the liquidation level while the transaction remains public, right? But then you have the second tech, fully homomorphic encryption, and this is actually hardcore encryption, something that has a completely different use case, way more resourceful. And I would say on the third one, on ZK, I would say this is more availability of the data and provability, but on a more, I would say, on a speedy way. So to each technology, its use case, and whenever we'll be able to provide to the end users the choice and those techs, then privacy would become maybe more mainstream, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. So key takeaways thus far, I think everybody can agree, privacy is not binary, right? Yes or no. And it's highly contingent on the type of use case. And so if we think about financial privacy, it may come as, as a bit of a rude awakening, to many degen. There really isn't a right to strong financial privacy in national law. There really isn't. Nevertheless, there's an extremely strong right to freedom to transact. And there's a world of opportunity between those rights, and it's all about how those are implemented on the application layer. And so, especially if we think about dApps that leverage location data, so DPIN we have Wagoy here, telemetry data, navigation data, location data, you don't want on-chain sleuths to be able to track you down to your driver's license. And so, yes, you need ZK strong encryption to be able to do network activity and have strong anonymity protections. And as important, you have very strong legal rights to the same. But perhaps in a financial context, right, when we're talking about dark pools and when we're talking about shielded activity of an especially sketchy character, then yes, you may need to lower your privacy expectations, and no amount of hard crypto is going to immunize you. And so that's, I think, a very, very important point. The tech is only as good as the use case and is only as strong as the legal framework enveloping the tech.
Thank you.
So there's a couple of points to unpack here. I think regarding your question surrounding privacy chains, my strong opinion is that there's no real value in the dedicated privacy chains, because what privacy chains mean is that their USP basically is, hey, we are a blockchain network that offers privacy. And this sort of is this approach of seeing privacy as a purely political thing, and trying to bring privacy to the world through that lens. And I think that's the wrong approach. I think what we need is privacy tech that makes apps more powerful, and through that we'll be able to achieve privacy as an end. And so I think that's also one of the reasons why those networks have never taken off, because the only thing they offer is privacy, but not the great applications and new, most innovative, fast transactions, right? And so that's the approach that we are taking at Arcium, at offering encrypted computing at the place where it's needed, at the fast throughput networks where all of the users and all of the applications are. And technology-wise, there's multiple technologies to be utilized. As I explained earlier, there's different kinds of categories for privacy. There's this one-dimensional form of privacy that in the past has been used with Zcash, Tornado Cash, and the like, which mostly is this zero-knowledge proof, ZK-based privacy. And with Privacy 2.0, it's about being able to actually run encrypted computations over everyone's data in an encrypted way, which is a prerequisite for building those more powerful applications. And so the technological options there are really, as you said, trusted execution environments, fully homomorphic encryption, and secure multi-party computation. And at Arcium, we are using so-called semi-homomorphic encryption with secure multi-party computation, which as a technology is offering computing over encrypted data with no trust assumptions, while being many orders of magnitude faster than fully homomorphic encryption, and overcoming the fundamental flaw of trusted execution environments, TEEs, of being trusted execution, of requiring trust in some centralized actors like we know from Web 2. And so that's the privacy vision that we basically have, where privacy exists on all modern networks. You don't have to go to some specific privacy-preserving network. Instead, privacy is at the fingertips of the users, because users themselves shouldn't have to think about privacy. That's the wrong approach. It's about building more powerful tools that are logical business decisions for applications to utilize to enable more powerful applications, which then will lead to more privacy adoption.
Kartik.
I totally agree, but what you have mentioned, like private chains are not really useful. What do you think about, like, can they be used for like enterprise or consortium kind of models? Like,
I mean, that depends on your definition of private chain. If you just have a private ledger that's being deployed in a consortium, I think we will see more of these. And there's already a lot of big financial institutionals using these kinds of networks, basically running distributed ledgers in-house. So I think we will definitely see that. But my point really is that a public ledger that has a value proposition that they offer privacy will not attract the user, and I think is not the future of blockchain. And we've seen that.
Yeah, completely agree, and want to double down on that idea. So Zcash, right? ZK has been around forever. Zcash is amazing. Shielded pools are great, but so long as the only thing you can do is buy a privacy solution, buy a privacy coin, the market is always going to be finite. It's going to be, it's a dead end. And we all know the bigger the privacy pool, the stronger the privacy solution. And so there has to be this counterpart. There has to be a way to earn your first shielded Zcash versus just buying into a privacy coin. And so I think now, thankfully, we're at this moment as a space where we can very comfortably say that. So, yay, you've got a privacy chain, great. How can I get into your network? How can I contribute to your network, do privacy stuff, and earn my privacy coin, as opposed to just buying your privacy coin, which is a non-starter?
Yeah, I think the real innovation that happened in this space and that got us all driving was obviously the open ledger that Satoshi, our Lord and Savior, brought to us. So we started from there, and then I think the privacy in the end game is the programmable privacy. How much layers of privacy do you want to add on top of your program? Everything private, you lose a lot of the features that we've been fighting for. And nothing private, then we end up in a situation that we're trying to solve nowadays. So I think that privacy should be programmable, and you start adding layers depending on the different tech we need. If it's hard encryption, like we said, FHE. If it's programmable, TE has really showed its use cases from there. But again, this means you're trusting whoever is providing you the TE. And then ZK, obviously, for quick availability and verifiability.
The best privacy is on public chains. There's no privacy on private chains.
Yeah, I also think one important aspect when talking about privacy in the financial sense and talking about compliance concerns is that with this form of programmable encrypted computing, we can overcome all of those limitations. Again, with privacy-preserving technologies. So you don't have to think about those future compliance systems as something necessarily centralized, but instead decentralized solutions that again use encrypted computing, use rule sets that are being applied over encrypted shared state, computing over the encrypted data, and adding verifiability and accountability to those systems, which currently only the transparency allows for. And so I think that's one of the big shifts that Privacy 2.0 offers, this form of being able to compute over encrypted data. And that's going to be a big game changer for crypto as a whole. And it basically affects any type of application. So as I said earlier, we're working with CrunchDAO, but we also have teams using our network to build things like an on-chain DocuSign, where you encrypt your documents, people can sign them, you can give some party viewing access to your documents. So those things weren't possible before, and now it's possible to have better solutions than in Web 2 without any trusted intermediaries. And so privacy on the computational level enables so much more for the entire space.
I think you should definitely check out Midnight Protocol. Have you guys checked Midnight Protocol? They are running on a dual token model. That is a very best use case to look after into this.
All right, so just to summarize, it sounds like what you've all said today is that it doesn't matter too much about what the privacy technology is, as long as it's there, it's embedded in a user experience, and that the customers feel safe and they can get onboarded really smoothly. As for all the technologies that you're building on, we wish you all the best, and thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you so much.